Hello and welcome to another edition of World Panorama, and here we have all the big international news of the week. I'm Smriti Rastogi, and before we get you the detailed reports, here's a look at the top stories this week. Manmohan Singh's visit to China and Russia. Prime Minister says the mission is accomplished. We will get you the insight of this meet. Nawaz Sharif's call for intervention fails. US dismisses Pak's plea of intervening in Kashmir issue. Also, Nawaz Sharif pleads Obama to end drone strikes. Angela Merkel demands progress on no spying deal between Europe, and US says spying on friends is not on at all. And annual Hollywood Awards begin the award season. In Hollywood, Sandra Bullock, Julia Roberts and Harrison Ford steal the show. India and China this week signed a border defense cooperation agreement. The pact was one of the key highlights of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh's three-day visit to Beijing. It is also being described as a step forward in narrowing the distrust between the two nations in an otherwise thriving economic environment. But both sides failed to resolve their differences for a more liberal visa regime. We will be talking more about this, and joining me on this story in show is Bijoy Das, Research Associate from IDSA. But before we discuss the details, let us take a quick look at this report.
Seeking to defuse the recurring standoff along the disputed line of actual control, India and China on Wednesday signed the key border defense cooperation agreement. Prime Minister Singh and Chinese Premier Li Keqiang led their respective sides in the delegation-level talks in Beijing.
Premier Li and I have agreed that peace and tranquility on our borders must remain the foundation for growth in the India-China relationship. Even as we move forward the negotiations toward a fair, reasonable and mutually acceptable settlement to the India-China boundary question. This will be our strategic benchmark.
我和辛格总理一致认为，中印的共同利益远远大于我们之间存在的分歧。两国政府有能力管控好边界分歧，以避免影响两国发展的大局。
The Comprehensive Border Defense Pact commits both sides not to use military capability to attack each other. Under the new agreement, the two nuclear-armed sides will give notice of patrols along the ill-defined border. They will ensure that patrols do not tail each other to reduce the chance of confrontation. The other major issue taken up during the talks was that of liberalizing the visa regime, but no agreement was reached on that. The deal failed to go through as India objected to the issue in the wake of the controversy over stapled visas issued by Chinese embassy to two Indian archers from Arunachal Pradesh.
Arunachal is an integral part of India. There's no doubt about that. Now you're asking me about the question of stapled visas. Yes, it did come up. It was raised. That is something that will be under discussion, and I'm not in a position to go into further details at this point of time.
In all, 9 agreements including the Border Pact were signed in the delegation-level talks. They also inked MOUs on strengthening cooperation on trans-border rivers, roads and transport.
Premier Li was receptive to my concern about the unsustainable trade imbalance between our two countries, and we have agreed to explore avenues to bridge this gap.
The two sides also explored ways to reach a balance in bilateral trade. India saw a trade deficit of $39 billion with China in the fiscal year of 2012-13 against a deficit of $37 billion in the previous year.
Shidas, what were the substantial gains during Prime Minister Manmohan's visit to China?
In all, there were 9 documents which were signed, of which about 3 are very important. And apart from the brass tacks, what was important is the common vision for peace and tranquility.
Right.
And the understanding between the leaders on both the sides that peace and tranquility on the borders will be key to better bilateral relations. Now, these 9 documents have defense agreements, they have economy and trade,
Exactly.
and people-to-people relations.
contact as well, right? And how will the BDCA, the Border Defense Cooperation Agreement, how will it help in resolving the border disputes?
You see, to understand this, one must first understand that the key issue is the unresolved border.
Right.
And that amounts to about 135 million square kilometers.
Right.
Now, sorry, not million, 135,000 square kilometers. Now, still, both the sides agree that it'll take a long time
Right.
to resolve the border. But since this is unresolved, there are armed forces on both the sides. They will patrol their borders in their perception, whichever is their territory, and there'll be face-offs, which is the concern. And the concern is that such face-offs may escalate into armed conflict. Now, having said that, it must be understood that both the sides have been able to prevent any such armed conflict for decades now. So that goes to the merit. But BDCA, what it does, it has 2 or 3 new elements. Many of the important elements which have been stated here in the BDCA has already been practiced on ground, but they have been institutionalized. Say, for example, a graded interaction between both the sides at the level of flag meetings and at the level of, till the level of defense secretary. And number 2 is the enhancing the cooperation and exchanges between both the sides. And there's a possibility of hotline between the military headquarters on both the sides. These were in the air and many of them were already happening. 3 things are new in this agreement.
Right.
Number 1 is no tailing of patrols.
Exactly.
Now, what happens on the ground is when in such a unresolved border territory, one party goes into the area which is claimed by another party, and then they come to a face-to-face situation, and they've agreed to go back.
Right.
Now, in a situation, the other party, it escorts or follows, which is tailing, till the patrol party returns to their own position. Now, this has been agreed as, tailing has been agreed as a possible reason of escalation. So, this has been done away with in this agreement, which, to my mind, is, which I may, if I may describe, is, it's by both the sides, it's a strategic investment at a tactical cost.
Okay.
Tactically, you're giving up an option.
Right.
In the interest of better bilateral relations.
Right.
Right. Number 2 is, for the first time, both the sides have agreed to cooperate on cross-border narco-arms smuggling.
Right.
This has been a big concern to Indian side because of the porous northeastern border in which insurgents on the northeastern side, they gain access to small arms and drugs, which has history and academic research has shown that they have links to Southeast Asia as well as China.
Right.
If both the sides and armed forces agree, then this can come to a stop. And the northeastern frontier can be peaceful. And number 3, quickly, is both the sides have agreed to cooperate in a situation of intrusion, border intrusion, which is actually not intrusion per se, but whenever there's a face-to-face situation, both the sides have to inform the other sides.
And if we talk about the economic front, what were the major takeaways from this visit of Prime Minister Manmohan Singh, keeping in mind that India's unsustainable trade deficit with China? Yes,
this is a very important question. You see, last year, the trade imbalance was $28 billion against us. So this time, it has been addressed by 2 major agreements. One is investment on railway and railway transportation, which has come in the papers, high-speed railway. China is ahead of us, and we can have a lot of investment and technology from China. The other one is the investment of Chinese entrepreneurs and industries into dedicated India-China industrial parks and special economic zones.
Right.
So this will go in a big way in reducing the trade imbalance. But I may add over here that it was expected that China would grant market access to our pharmaceutical products, our software products, but
Right.
it hasn't happened yet.
Mr. Das, it was pleasure having you on our show. And meanwhile, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh concluded his Russia visit on Monday. Both Manmohan Singh and Russian President Putin spoke of converging interest on economic growth and building inclusive and cooperative security architecture in Asia-Pacific region.
In an attempt to allay Russia's apprehensions, Prime Minister Manmohan Singh on Monday said Russia will remain an indispensable partner for India's defence needs. Manmohan Singh underlined that the bilateral ties should adapt to changing times to address challenges.
Russia has stood by India at moments of great international challenge, when our own resources were limited and our friends were few. Beyond all the assistance that we have received, it is this last fact that Indians will never forget.
The statement assumes significance as India has lately been looking at new vendors like the United States and Israel for its military hardware. These partnerships have left Russia worried, which has been the long-standing major supplier of India's defence equipment. The Prime Minister described India's relationship with Russia as unmatched by any other relationship, citing various examples of defence cooperation.
В этой связи отмечу наш общий большой успех. В июле был запущен первый энергоблок атомной электростанции Кудан-Кулам. Ведется его подключение к энергосистеме Индии. Я думаю, что это состоится буквально в ближайшие часы.
Manmohan Singh, who was on an official visit to Moscow this week for the 14th annual India-Russia summit, met with Russian President Vladimir Putin and held discussions on bilateral and multilateral issues, including nuclear energy, hydrocarbons and trade. The two agreed on greater cooperation in international matters. Singh further added that one of the fundamental foundations of India's foreign policy is the partnership with Russia.
We are going to review our partnership and its progress in diverse fields such as the atomic energy, defense cooperation, space cooperation, science and technology, trade and investment.
Singh was also conferred an honorary doctorate by the Moscow State Institute of International Relations.
And time for a short break. On the other side, we will get you Nawaz Sharif's meeting with Obama, his concerns about drone strikes, Kashmir issue, and lots more coming up on the other side. Welcome back. You're watching World Panorama with me, Smriti Rastogi. US President Barack Obama met Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif at the White House on Thursday. The meeting was the culmination of the efforts to address the trust deficit between the two nations. Sharif urged the intervention of the US government on the Kashmir issue, a demand that was firmly denied by Obama administration.
Condemning terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, US President Barack Obama and Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif on Thursday said that no country's territory should be used to destabilize its neighbors. The two leaders discussed a host of issues in which violent extremism and terrorism figured prominently.
We talked about security and the concerns that both of us had about senseless violence, terrorism, and extremism. And we agreed that we need to continue to find constructive ways to partner together, ways that respect Pakistan's sovereignty, that respect the concerns of both countries.
Sharif also urged Obama to put an end to drone strikes in Pakistan as they were proving to be counterproductive in the war against terrorism.
Pakistan and the United States have a strong ongoing counter-terrorism cooperation. We have agreed to further strengthen this cooperation. I also brought up the issue of drones in our meeting, emphasizing the need for an end to such strikes.
Backing India's concern over the slow pace of progress in the 2611 case in Pakistan, Obama raised the issue with Sharif. Obama questioned Sharif why the trial of Mumbai attackers has not started till now. In a statement after the meeting, Obama said that Pakistan Prime Minister was taking a wise path in exploring how decades of tension between India and Pakistan can be reduced. Obama also welcomed recent engagements between Sharif and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and expressed hope that this would mark the beginning of a sustained dialogue process aimed at building lasting peace in South Asia.
And in Europe, the scandal over the mass surveillance of digital communications by the US touched the highest levels of its politics for the first time. The EU's two key leaders, Angela Merkel and François Hollande, together sought a joint response on the spying claims. German Chancellor Angela Merkel wants the US to strike a no-spying agreement with Berlin and Paris by the end of the year. Merkel wants the alleged espionage against two of Washington's closest EU allies to be stopped. She also wants action and not just apologies from President Barack Obama.
Jeder weiß, dass wir so viele gemeinsame Aufgaben in der Welt haben, dass wir auch miteinander für unsere Sicherheit verantwortlich sind, dass es jetzt eigentlich um den Blick in die Zukunft geht. Und da geht es aber nicht nur um gute Worte, sondern um wirkliche Veränderungen.
Germany is upset over reports that the US National Security Agency accessed tens of thousands of French phone records and monitored Merkel's private mobile phone. The US has a no-spying deal with Britain, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. The alliance known as Five Eyes was struck in the aftermath of World War II. But traditionally, there is a reluctance to make similar arrangements with other allies.
France et l'Allemagne prendront l'initiative de provoquer une discussion avec les Américains pour établir un cadre commun de coopération et de clarification d'ici la fin de l'année. Et les Européens qui voudront se joindre à nous seront les bienvenus.
Meanwhile, White House Press Secretary Jay Carney has said the US reserves the right to conduct intelligence and that Obama has initiated a review of intelligence gathering to balance security needs.
Had discussions with Chancellor Merkel about that, including yesterday in their phone call. And he's very understanding of the concerns that have been raised broadly in Germany and elsewhere by these reports. And we're working through our diplomatic channels to discuss those issues with our counterparts as we conduct this review of our intelligence gathering activities.
US intelligence gathering has become a sore point for France, Brazil and Mexico, especially after former national security contractor Edward Snowden's revelations. And amid pressure to deliver reforms following a wave of migrant deaths in Mediterranean Sea, European Union leaders took up the issue at the EU summit in Brussels. The two-day summit also focused on economic and social policy issues and the economic and monetary union.
Weeks after Italy's worst refugee disaster saw the death of 364 migrants, European Union leaders gathered in Brussels on Friday to discuss the migration policy. The second day of talks at the European Council began with an aim to agree on a united response to the Lampedusa tragedy. The death of hundreds of African migrants in the shipwreck off Sicily has led to anguished calls for Europe-wide action to tackle mass migration. But divisions among the EU states mean the bloc's response is likely to fall short of expectations.
I think we have pretty good migration policy, but of course we have to work more in order to avoid a similar situation what we see in Lampedusa. Especially illegal human trafficking is the most severe problem, and this is something which the EU should work together with the third countries.
It's not only a South European problem, it's all European problem. It needs to be not in collision with our social security schemes. It is also important because today Europe is not ready to accept as many refugees as probably it can flow in. And after revolutions in Maghreb and in North Africa, of course, a lot of situation deteriorated concerning the possible flows of immigrants.
In an attempt to contain the global financial crisis and reduce the burden on the debt-troubled European nations, British Prime Minister David Cameron pressed EU to lighten regulations.
It's absolutely essential in Europe to cut regulations and help businesses to create jobs, to create growth. That's what we need right across the continent, right across the EU. And so I brought some of the best business brains in Britain here to Brussels to talk about the regulations we can cut, the principles that we can apply, the work we can do with the European Commission to help make our businesses competitive.
The European Commission backed Cameron's call to scale back the unnecessary laws hampering businesses across Europe. The Commission said substantial efforts are required at both the EU and national levels.
And much else has been unfolding around the world. Here's a quick wrap of other international news of the week.
The extradition treaty between India and Bangladesh came into effect with the handing over of the instruments on Wednesday. The two countries will now be able to exchange convicts or under trials. The treaty will also allow exchange of convicts sentenced for more than a year in prison, but will not be applicable to political prisoners and asylum seekers. Both sides can cancel the treaty at a 6-month notice. This treaty will help India take back Ulfa leader Anup Chetia, who is in a Bangladesh jail. US President Barack Obama highlighted education as a key priority in his discussion on future budgets. Speaking at the Pathways in Technology Early College High School in Brooklyn, Obama said budget priorities should be dictated by common sense, especially with respect to how they might grow the economy. Obama's speech came amidst anticipation for a budget rematch with Republicans due to begin next week in Congress. He has made it clear that he hopes to boost spending on things like schools and infrastructure, while Republicans remain focused on reining in the nation's debt and shrinking the role of government. The Shandong Higher People's Court has confirmed the death sentence for Bo Xilai. Xilai is accused of bribery, embezzlement and abuse of power. Bo has not accepted his sentence. He submitted an appeal to the Shandong Higher People's Court. He was a former member of the CPC Central Committee Political Bureau and was charged at a trial held from 22nd to 26th of August. Family members of former Peruvian President Alberto Fujimori have called for his release from jail. They have also asked the Peru government to place him under house arrest. Fujimori's defense team is mounting a new legal strategy to free their client from a military prison. Fujimori is currently serving a 25-year prison sentence for ordering military death squads during his 1990 to 2000 rule. His defense says the 75-year-old is facing severe health problems.
Well, shifting gears, time to bring you up to speed with all the sports news that you might have missed this week. Here's all the sports action.
World number 1 Serena Williams beat Agnieszka Radwanska for the 8th time in 8 matches to move into semi-finals of the WTA Championships. In the white group, Serbia's Jelena Jankovic beat second seed Victoria Azarenka 6-4, 6-3, aided by 40 unforced errors from her erratic opponent. Jankovic lost her last 17 matches against players ranked in the top 4. Former Australian Test captain and legendary commentator Richie Benaud was injured in a car accident after his car hit a brick wall in Sydney. The 83-year-old commentator ended up with chest and shoulder injuries besides a broken sternum. According to the doctors, his condition is stable now but will remain in hospital for 2 weeks to recover. Benaud has commentated since ending his playing days in 1964 and is due to work on the Ashes that starts on 21st November. Former US PGA champion Keegan Bradley grabbed a 4-shot lead at the halfway stage of the CIMB Classic in Malaysia on Friday. As Phil Mickelson's swing struggles continued, Bradley fired 7 birdies in his second round of 6 under par 66 to lead the $7 million PGA Tour event on 13 under after overnight leader Ryan Moore failed to match the fireworks of his opening 63 and settled for a level par 72. Bradley, who won his sole major championship in 2011, said his accuracy needed to continue on the narrow layout if he was to claim a 4th PGA Tour title. Ukrainian heavyweight boxer and opposition politician Vitaly Klitschko has said that he would run for president in a 2015 election. He made his declaration to the Ukrainian parliament after the assembly. Known for his powerful punches and durable chin with a 87.23% knockout percentage rate, Vitaly holds the second best knockout to fight ratio of any champion in heavyweight boxing history. He is also the leader of the political party Ukrainian Democratic Alliance for Reform since 15 December 2012.
And time now for all the very latest news from the world of movies, music and lifestyle. Here's our entertainment wrap.
Harrison Ford, Matthew McConaughey and Sandra Bullock made an appealing appearance on the red carpet for the Hollywood Film Awards. The 17th annual awards were held in Beverly Hills. The event that kicks off the Hollywood's award season presented the Career Achievement Award to Harrison Ford for his contribution to the industry. McConaughey got the Hollywood Actor Award, while Sandra Bullock took the Hollywood Actress Award. Fashion magazine LA honored 8 leading ladies of Hollywood for making an impact in the film industry. They included Oscar-winning Reese Witherspoon, comic actress Melissa McCarthy, Marion Cotillard, Eva Marie Saint and Shailene Woodley. The oldest of the lot was Oscar winner Eva Marie Saint, who played two of the most famous female lead roles in history in North by Northwest and On the Waterfront. The youngest award winner was Shailene Woodley, who said she'd rather be honored among women than among men. Rapper Kanye West and reality TV star Kim Kardashian confirmed their engagement. West proposed to Kim at San Francisco Major League Baseball Stadium on her birthday. The proposal became a sensation after YouTube co-founder Chad Hurley posted the recording to the website Mixbit, showing the orchestra serenading the couple as family and friends looked on and cheered. West and Kardashian started dating in April 2012 and have a daughter, Northwest, who was born in June. Beatles drummer Ringo Starr is all set to unveil his personal collection of previously unseen photographs of the Beatles. The book is due to be out next month. The limited edition hand-bound version signed by Starr will be available for purchase on November 22nd. The book includes photographs spanning the musician's childhood in Liverpool, England, to his road to fame as part of the Fab Four with Paul McCartney, John Lennon and George Harrison.
That's all we have for you in this edition of World Panorama. See you next week, same time with more international news. Till then, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This week, we are signing off in Mexico City, where hundreds of clowns marched merrily through the city to mark the 18th Annual International Clown Convention, aimed at honing their craft and supporting the industry. The convention is also known as the Festival of Laughter. This is me, Smriti Rastogi, signing off.